Hello, I am Michael Whitehouse, the guy who knows a guy, and in the next less than 60 minutes, I suspect I'm going to teach you how to launch your podcast in 60 minutes or less. This is an actual educational thing. This is not just one of those sales webinars. This is a training thing. I'm going to teach you literally how to launch your podcast. If you play along at home, follow what I say, you will actually have a podcast ready to receive information. You'll be ready to start booking guests. So if you're looking to start a podcast and you haven't, this is for you. If you have started a podcast, just want to learn a little bit more about how to do it, also for you. So let's get started. So what we're going to be doing, first, you're going to understand why you want a podcast. Start with why. Who should be on your podcast, whether it should be just you or guests or whatnot. Decide what kind of podcast or show you want, and I'll explain why I separated those in a moment. We're going to set up your podcast. We're going to set up your invitation and booking process, and then we're going to edit your episode, teach you how to edit an episode, how to promote your episode, and how to get your guest to promote the episode. And I'm going to be offering you a way to get this done for you very affordably. So yes, there is an offer coming at the end, but I'm going to teach you everything to do it yourself. You can absolutely do it yourself. If at the end you say, that seems like a bunch of work and I got better things to do with my time, I'd rather pay someone to do it. Basically, I have a program with Kendra, my VA, the one who does all of my podcast production and posting, who I taught how to do all this that I'm teaching you. She can do it for you as well. So let's get into it. I'm going to give you a bunch of links. If you go to emc.coach/podkit, you will get those links. Why should you use those links instead of just typing it in yourself? Because you can Google it. So for a couple of those are what are called affiliate links. So you're getting this content for free, and I'm happy to share it with you. If you use my link as opposed to the link you find on Google, then I get a few, most of the things, I think anything I'm offering you here is like $15-20 a month. So it's not a huge thing, but I get a couple bucks. I can buy a coffee with it. You also might get a benefit. Some of those special links I have give you a discount or something like that. So go to emc.coach/podkit. That's also where I'll be updating as I find new links and more resources. They're going to be there as well. So that is a dynamic form. It's a Google Doc, but I'll update it as I find new things. So let's start with why. Why are you starting a podcast? Now, a bad answer to this question is because I've been told I should have a podcast. Okay, cool. You should have a podcast, but what's the podcast supposed to do for you? What is its objective? Here's some examples. It could be to build an audience and get sponsored. The Joe Rogan, I want to get 3 million downloads and I want to get sponsors. I want to build authority. I want people to listen to me and say, well, that guy really knows his stuff. Listen to that show. I want to make networking connections or connect with prospects, connect with partners. This great thing about podcasts, you can get people on a show who would not give you the time of day otherwise, who if you asked them to do a one-to-one or virtual coffee, they'd be like, sorry, I don't have time for that. You invite them onto a show, onto an interview, and they're much more open to doing that. Same thing with learning from guests. When I launched the third season of my Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast, I brought on people who were successful doing what I wanted to be doing. And I basically asked them, how the heck did you do it? Teach me. And they did. 50 amazing guests spent 30 to 60 minutes of their time teaching me what they did, sharing their successes so I could learn from them in exchange for exposure on the show. It could also be for fun. You might be doing it for fun. I'm doing a podcast called Networking Nightmares. It's for fun. I have no business plan for it, but it's a chance to reconnect with people I know and to teach a bit about networking. But really, it's because I like sharing stories about how things are done wrong so people can learn. And there might be another reason. But the key thing is at this point, you want to figure out why. And if you're watching this recording, you may need to pause right now and just sit down and say, why? Write down what do you want to get? If your podcast is exactly what you want it to do, what's it going to look like? Now, this is one of those things like having $1 million. If I gave you $1 million, would you take it? Probably. Would you be willing to do what it takes to make $1 million? Maybe, maybe not. If I gave you 1 million downloads, would you take it? Probably. Do you want to do what it takes to get $1 million? Do you want the kind of 1 million downloads? Do you want the kind of show it takes to get 1 million downloads? Some of my shows, they are what I want them to be because it's what I want them to be. And those aren't the kind of thing that's going to get 1 million downloads, but that's okay. That's not the goal. So I want you to think about, if this podcast is what you want it to be, what will it be and what will you do? What will it do for you? That's going to inform the other decisions you're going to make. Who? So once you know why, who? So who could just be just you? Could be a solo podcast, in which case this isn't going to apply. But Phil Paluccio, I credit in the corner right there, he taught me about the 3 Ps: prospects, partners, and promoters. I added a 4th P of people you can learn from. I've heard some other people share this as well. I don't know if they learned it from Phil or Phil learned it from them or what, but so these the 4 Ps: prospects, partners, promoters, and people you can learn from. If you're inviting someone to be on your show, they should be one of these 4 people, unless your show is for fun, in which case that's a whole different thing. But this is for business. They should be one of these 4 people. And the conversation is going to be right. Now, the conversation is to be of value to the listener and to give you the chance to connect with that person. Now, let me explain a little bit about the 4 Ps, each of the 4 Ps, and how those might go together. So prospects are people who might buy your stuff. So, for example, if you need to talk to CEOs of manufacturing companies, you could have a podcast about what's new in manufacturing and invite CEOs on, and you'd invite them on and you'd say, I know that you're a leader in your business. I'd love to get your insights on what's new in manufacturing. You're going to bring them on. You're going to edify them. You're going to make them sound smart, because they probably are smart. They're leaders in the business. You're going to ask them, what's new? What's going on? What can people learn? Those kinds of questions that let them share what they know, share their knowledge. This is valuable to the audience and may be valuable to them as well, but it also builds rapport. Who doesn't like sharing their story and talking about how smart they are and how much they know? So you're going to do that, and you're going to learn some things about them. You may learn some challenges they have. You may learn some needs they have. After the conversation, after you hit stop, you are going to take advantage of that time to talk to them, because now you've built rapport. And if you've heard a challenge that you might be able to help with, you might say, hey, I heard that you have this challenge. I don't know if I do this thing. Would you be open to a conversation about that? Use that. I'm not going to go deep into how to maximize a podcast, but take advantage of that time. The worst thing you can do is at the end hit stop and be like, all right, well, that's a great podcast. Thanks. See you later. That's where the gold is, after you hit stop and being able to talk to them, whatever that. And the opportunity could be asking them for referrals. Did you have a good time? I had a great time. Who else do you know is in the industry who you think might be interested in this? Oh, yeah, send them my way. Get some names, get some numbers, get some intros, do a follow-up call, see what has developed. Partners are people you might team up with, joint ventures of various kinds. Partner kind of shades into promoter. Promoter is someone who's going to promote you. Every guest should be a promoter to some degree, because they should be promoting your podcast, but they may promote your product. They may do something else. Partners, you might do a webinar swap. They might bring you on their show. You might go to their summit. You might do a summit together. There's all kinds of different ways you could partner together. And then people you can learn from. I mentioned season 3 of the Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast. I brought on people I needed to learn from. I was watching other people being successful in the industry, and I wasn't. So I was like, how the heck, what the heck are they doing? Oh, I know, I should ask them. If I just called them up and said, hey, could I ask you for 30 minutes, like for some advice? They'd say, yeah, $500, $1,000, please. But I invited them on a show to share the advice, not just with me, but with a wider audience. And here's the thing, and here's something that you might get hung up on, and don't worry about how big your show is. I've never had someone who I wanted to interview say, how big is your show? How big's your audience? Now, they might curious, afterwards, like, hey, I'm just curious, how big is the audience? I'm like, I don't know, like 50 people. Neat. One of those 50 might be someone who needs to meet me. And that's how they think. Nobody has ever asked me, how big is your audience for getting on a show? Because really, what is the commitment to be on a podcast? 30 minutes, 60 minutes, sending a couple of emails, sending it to their Facebook group or whatever. It's not a huge commitment. Having a podcast shows you're serious, you're not going to waste their time, and you're not going to try to sell them something, because what kind of jackass tries to sell someone during a recording session? Ugh. No one, hopefully. At least, certainly, hopefully not you. So the podcast gives you credibility and gets you on there. But yeah, don't worry about how big your show is. You could also say, I'm starting a show. but don't worry about what you know. Don't worry about how big your audience is. Amazing people will be happy to get on your show if you say, I'm in the process of learning, and I believe other people are as well. I'd love to share what you know with the audience, and quite frankly, me. A lot of people be like, oh, I know a lot. I'd love to share. Drink some water, let that sink in. All right, what kind of show should it be? There's a whole bunch of kinds of shows. There's live shows and podcasts. Now, when I say live show is live stream. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, I guess. Instagram does some live stuff now. Roku, there's all kinds of live things. Podcast is something that is put in an audio form and put out through an RSS feed to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all these different platforms. Your live show could be recorded and put out in podcast form as well. But I'm separating these two things because there's advantages and disadvantages to each. The advantage of a live show is it's easy. Right? Every Friday at 2 p.m., I do the Power Lunch live show that I'll talk to you about in a minute. And I get people on there and I hit go live and we talk and it's great. And then I hit stop and I don't do anything else with it. Nothing. It's just there. Now, because I don't do anything else with it, it doesn't have a huge following, but the value there is the conversation among the people on there. And we make some, I get people from the modest audience I have saying, hey, can I meet so-and-so who's on your show? I'd like to meet them. Can I get an introduction to so-and-so? So good things do come out of it. It's easy, but it doesn't have much of a reach, and social media is somewhat ephemeral. Podcasts take more work. You need to produce them. You need to upload them. You need a cover image. You may need all that kind of stuff. Not a tremendous amount of work, although it could be. But it does take more work, but they're persistent. If you put up an episode today and somebody searches for it in 5 years, it could still come up and you can still refer to it, and they're easy to find. And then you could do a solo show, that's just you. You could do an interview show, that's you and a guest. You could do a roundtable, that's you and multiple guests, or you could do a program. That's something that's really structured. So let's talk about these a little bit. So I said, I do the Power Lunch live show, roundtable. I bring on 4 guests every week, and we have a free-flowing conversation. I originally thought this was going to be a 1 or 2 month thing before I realized it was a dumb idea. Turned out it's been fantastic because the interplay of the guests is what makes it so interesting. You could also do an interview. My Guy Knows a Guy podcast and Neurodiverse Superpowers, these are interviews. People come on for 20 to 40 minutes. In my case, I've seen them as short as 7 minutes. I've seen them as long as 7 hours. Some of those popular shows out there are multiple hours long. And some are unedited, like hit record, talk for 3 hours, hit stop, that's the show. So there's all kinds of ways you can do it. But the podcast is solo guest. You can also do solo. So these are 2 of mine. I have a lot of podcasts. Morning Motivation is solo. It's me with a motivational message, 2 to 5 minutes with some music underlying it. The Power 5 podcast, I haven't done it in a while, but it's answering questions in 5 minutes or less. Again, just me. I did these short form, some are long form. There's some shows like Tides of History and Revolutions. I like their history shows. And it's scripted, but it's just the host, who is also the researcher, reading the content. And it's great. With Revolutions, it's just Mike Duncan reading. With Tides of History, there's some sound effects and some music and a little bit of background. But so solo can be powerful as well if you're looking to share your message to an audience. And there's a program, Business Wars, How I Built This, Masters of Scale, Serial. Serial is one of the first really big podcasts. These are produced like TV shows, like documentaries. They might be made over the course of weeks. They may have a number of interviews in them. They may have many voices. They may have reenactments. There's all kinds of different things. These are going to be much more produced and beyond the scope of this call. So if you're looking to do these kinds of shows, then you're going to want to talk to someone like Janine Bolin, who I'd be happy to connect you with. But just letting you know, these do exist. And a lot of shows I listen to are these kinds of highly produced shows as well. So let's set it up. Again, you're going to want to go to emc.coach/podkit, because that's where you'll find all the links I'm going to be talking about. So let me stop sharing here for a moment while I open up the right windows, because there's nothing like opening the wrong window while we're live. The first thing you're gonna need to do is go to Captivate. Now, I like Captivate. You can go other places. I'm a big fan of Captivate for a number of reasons. But you got to go to Captivate and click Start My Podcast, and that's how you're going to get that all set up there. But of course, I already have an account, so I'm going to show you what we're going to do from there. So you may want to pause the video and get that set up. Let me tell you what I like about Captivate. So Captivate lets you have as many podcasts as you want. They do have a limit on how many downloads you can get per month in each plan. The lowest plan, which is something like $19 a month, $17 a month, 30,000 downloads per month is your limit. Their highest plan is $99 a month, and it's 300,000 downloads. And then above that, they have they have higher level plans if you become Joe Rogan. But the reason for it is that every platform is going to throttle you in some way. On Libsyn, you pay per podcast. Well, if you decide to launch a podcast and you get 8 episodes in, you need to either keep paying to keep it up there, or if you stop paying, it disappears from the internet entirely. I got Power 5 here, last published July 25th. It's been a while since I put everything up there, but I don't have to pay to keep it up there, right? Because it's part of this. So that's why I like it. For someone like me who's kind of like, oh, I got a podcast idea. Oh, I got a podcast idea. It's great. So I can put a few in there. It also has some other really useful tools, including a bulk ad editor. So you can do pre-roll and post-roll and mid-roll ads with this dynamically. You can change the ads after the episode's up. So the episode's already up, and then you get a new sponsor, you have a new program going, you can change your ads. So someone listens to your episode from last year, it's still going to talk about the program you're doing this week. So this is great. There's some other great things as well, but it's fairly low cost. And if you need to transfer out, it's not a nightmare to do so. So I encourage you to try Captivate. If you find something you think is better, you can always move. But one of the things I'm trying to do is get you moving. That's why this is Launch Your Podcast in 60 Days. So I want to encourage you to launch your podcast. Let's get going. Better to do something than nothing. And all the things I'm talking to you about, you can fix later if you're like, I don't really love this that much. So let's get your podcast up. So you're going to go through all that, and you're going to at some point come to some sort of thing that says add new podcast. And so you can import a podcast somewhere else if you already have it, or you can create a new podcast. And you're just going to go through these things. So networking nightmares is something I'm working on here. Author name, that's me. I'm the author, the address. If I could type it, typing live, always dangerous. This is a private show. This is one of the things they offer is private shows that allow you to put like reserved content onto it. It's kind of an interesting concept, which I need to explore a little more. Cover art. We're going to skip this for the moment. We'll come back to it. Skip for now. Show description. Nightmares of networking. So you may wish to pause and think about this, but this is not searchable, just so you know. So the podcast name is searchable. The description is not. So when someone is searching, say, motivation, I have morning motivation. So it comes up when you search motivation. The Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast is not searchable. If you search for The Guy Who Knows a Guy, you can find it. But I actually should fix the name and put, The Guy Who Knows a Guy networking podcast, something like that. What you don't want to do is stuff links or stuff keywords. So if you have, The Guy Who Knows a Guy, The Guy Who Knows a Guy, networking for entrepreneurs who want to scale their business, stuff in keywords, Apple Podcasts may reject that because they know what you're doing. One of the cool things with Captivate is they know the algorithm. So if you try to stuff links, it'll stop you and be like, are you sure you want to do that, buddy? I think you're stuffing links, or I think you're stuffing keywords. So that's a thing to be aware of. Again, this is advanced stuff. If you're just trying to get a podcast out there, don't have to worry about it. You're going to pick pick some categories. So when they're browsing the podcast apps, they'll find that. Set up your directory settings, how many episodes you want in the feed, what time do you want to publish, and how is the show formatted. If you may have explicit language, make it explicit, because some of these platforms, some of the services like Apple Podcasts and whatnot will delist you if you're reported for having explicit language when it says it's clean. Whereas almost no one's gonna be like, oh, explicit language, I better not listen to that one. So if you're not sure. Episodic just means you're going to number the episodes. Episodic with seasons means you're splitting it up into separate seasons. And serial means it's going to be presented oldest to newest because it's a story ongoing, versus episodic, where it is, say, interview show. People often want to hear the most recent one, even if they haven't heard the first one. And then you're going to confirm your feed and put in whatever it's going to be called. And then you hit create my podcast. And so now once you do that, you're going to have a podcast, which is, that's it. Let's go live. What the heck? I'm going to be launching Networking Nightmares at some point. So then you got to go to publish episode. And when you do that, I'll actually come back to this in a minute, but it's relatively straightforward, but does take a bit of work. So now let's look at how do we create cover art. Oops, I hit the wrong button there. All right, let's get back to sharing the screen here. Share. So canva.com. There is a free version. You can also pay, I think it's $13 a month for the professional version, or $120 a year or something like that. I pay for it. I recommend you do if you've got $13. I don't have an affiliate link, so I don't care if you do or not. But I do, because it makes it so much easier. You can resize things and whatnot. But you can search for what you're looking for, like, say, podcast cover. And it will then give you templates in the right size. A podcast cover should be 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels. You want to do it in JPEG form, because if you do it in PNG, a 3,000 by 3,000 image is going to be too big to upload. So you got all kinds of templates here. They're super simple. You're going to grab one. It's going to open up and wait for it. And then once it loads, so this is for one that's, live every Sunday morning if you want, or if you want to do this, it could be, my podcast for jerks. And, make a couple tweaks on there. Boom, you got a podcast. You can put your face on it. You can not put your face on it. This Unsolved History one is actually what I used for my own Networking Nightmares podcast, which is going to be coming out. I basically made a couple of modifications on it, and boom, actually, let me show you what that looks like. And here you can see it looks pretty similar to the Unsolved Histories that I used here. I just changed the text on it, but hosted by Michael Whitehouse, the guy who's a guy, instead of that. Made a background that was more Networking Nightmares, and boom, I had it. And then you just go to download. You'll choose JPEG, 3,000 by 3,000, quality 80, download, and you will get a file that you can use for your cover. You're probably going to want to pause now and make this if you're looking to make it right now, or just make something quick. You can always change it. You can change it every day. Same thing with the name. You can change it every day if you want. Doesn't hurt anything. It's not like, Google, where you have to build up some credibility over time. You change it every day if you want to do that. Now, obviously, if you change your cover every day, people are not going to know what they're looking for, and they're confused because they get used to a cover. And so when they're scrolling through their podcast listening software, they'll say, they'll be like, wait, where'd that podcast go? Oh, it changed colors. And they might forget about it. You need to be able to hold their attention. So I don't recommend you change it every day, but you're not married to this. Just get something on there. Something is better than nothing. So then you're going to take this, you're going to go back over to Captivate, you're going to put it in there. Super simple. So if you're doing interviews, you are going to want to get people on the show. You're going to want to book them. There's two ways you can do this. One is you can set up a Google form. I'm not going to explain how Google forms work. If you don't know, Google it. But you can set up a Google form. because if you're going to be picky about who you want on the show, which you probably should be, you may want to have some kind of application that asks them qualifying questions. You know who you're looking for, so you want to ask them questions that qualify that. Now, you may be specifically inviting people, in which case you know who they are, and you're going to jump right to a calendar invite. Or you may have Google form first, and you can decide how complex your process is going to be. I use I then use Calendly to book people. I actually don't have a form first. If they're the right person, I send them the Calendly link. If not, I don't send them the Calendly link. So here is my Calendly page. So this is on the back side. So if you don't have a Calendly account, you should get one. I'm a big fan of Calendly because the more people have Calendly, the easier my life is. If you have Calendly and someone else has Calendly, then when you're trying to book with them, it'll actually show your calendar, your own calendar, which is linked to Calendly, juxtaposed with their availability, so you can see what's available. They have green dots. It's nice. But so when you set it up, I have a custom link, so it's always the same thing for Networking Nightmares, for example. In the description, remind them what we're doing. Keep in mind, this could be weeks or months later, so they may completely forget what the heck it is that you're going to be talking about, so make sure that's there. And then, of course, you're going to put the details of whatever you're looking for, how long it's going to be, all that kind of stuff. And then invitee questions. So for this, in this case, I say, what would you like to do on the show? Do you want to share your networking nightmare story? Do you want to get free coaching and networking, which I'm happy to do, makes me look good? Do you want to promote a program with an affiliate relationship? How should I introduce you on the show? How will you be promoting the appearance? Now, I don't care if they say I won't be promoting it at all. I'm still going to have them on. But this puts it in their thought, in their head to say, oh, I should promote this. I guess I can promote it on Facebook, and I can promote it on my email list. Then when I follow up, I can say, hey, don't forget to promote this on Facebook and your email list. And of course, leaving anything else I should know. It's also good to have a question at the end, which I need to add for this one, which basically gives you permission. If you want to get really fancy, you can get some like legalese on getting the rights to use their likeness and all that. There is certainly implied consent if someone registers for a podcast interview that they are consenting to you using their likeness. But you are better off. I'm not a lawyer. You're better off to get, text that really does explicitly say, I could use this for marketing or this or that. I may edit it. I can use it in the future. I can use it in the past. I can use it backwards, forwards, translate Japanese. So that is a good idea to do that as well. And then I recommend for reminders, because it has notifications. So for my reminders, I like to do 3 hours before, 1 hour before, and 15 minutes before. I do this for all of my Calendly appointments. And my show ratio, not counting people who reschedule or cancel, but my show ratio, if it's still on my calendar at the moment it's supposed to happen, I have about probably a 90-something% show ratio, where either someone will say, oh, I got this notification, I need to reschedule, so you're not just sitting there going, oh, is someone coming? Or they're going to show up. So, and now you may say, well, aren't people getting upset getting all the notifications? The only people who've gotten on the call and be like, oh my God, you send so many notifications, so annoying, are people I've later discovered I didn't really want to talk to anyway. So I've done thousands of meetings over the last couple of years using Calendly, and this has worked for me very well. You may want to do something else. This is what works for me. So next. So this is how you get them on there. So you're going to record an interview. There's a few different ways that you might record the interview. I've been using Zoom. I had been using Zencastr because Zencastr had some nice features that I liked, and then Zoom got most of them. When you use Zoom, you want to set it up so that you are getting dual audio files. As you know, Zoom is constantly changing. So when I set my settings, it let me set to record separate audio, and it always does now. I went and checked now for local recording. it actually doesn't have the option for cloud recording. It does. So if you're saving the cloud, make sure you have record a separate audio file for each participant. I believe it may do so by default for local recording now. But by the time you listen to this, there may be another Zoom update, and who knows what they'll be doing then. Do a test run. Get a buddy on and talk for a minute, and then save the recording and see if there's 2 audio files. There should be 2 audio files. After recording, what you're going to find is it should actually automatically open if you do it locally. If you do it in the cloud, I do everything locally in my computer. You should see this, and it'll say audio record. And this was a meeting, so each of the people will be there. So you do a round table. It's a whole bunch of things. So why do we want to do this separately like this, you may ask? This is because when you come time to edit it, you're going to really, really want separate files. Let me show you how that works on Audacity. All right, so you'll see here with Audacity here, this is Audacity. Audacity is free. It is open source software, which makes it pretty cool. So what you're going to want to do is have a pre-recorded intro and outro. And so you're going to take the intro file and drop it in here. You're going to take the outro file and drop it in here. And then you're going to take the 2 tracks and drop them in here. Give that a second to load because those are pretty big. They're, well, 5 seconds, not that long to load. So now we're going to take this and we are going to zoom it out bigger so you can see the whole thing. So you got the intro. You've got these guys. We're going to move the track up. Move the track up. This makes it easier. It's not strictly necessary. Select both of these. So we clicked here, and then you press Shift. You can't see me pressing Shift, but trust me, I'm pressing Shift. There. Now they're aligned together. Grab this and slide it over. It'll automatically link it. If in your intro track you have the music trail off like this, then you may want to come up with the music, but that's up to how fancy you want to get. And then we're going to take the outro. Outros traditionally go at the end. That's why they're called outros. Drag it all the way end here. Bada bing. You've now hopefully lined it up. And it's nice and simple. See, this is not terribly difficult. But why do we need 2 tracks? Control A to select everything. Effect, loudness normalization. Loudness normalization. One of these is louder than the other. One of these people is louder than the other in the recording. If they were in a single track, they'd stay that way. And if somebody tries to listen, especially in like a car or a noisier environment, if they turn up to the quiet person, it's going to blow out the eardrums and the louder one comes on. Or they turn it down for the louder one, they can't hear the quieter one. So you select everything and you hit apply, and we are now normalizing the loudness. So that's going to take a little bit. And so this is the basics of putting together an episode. And again, I'm not going super into detail on how to do all this stuff, but most of this you search the help files or whatnot. In terms of the intros and the outros, you can just record these right on Audacity. There's various royalty-free music you can use if you want to do that. Some of them you want to pay for it, so you don't have to give the credit in every single episode, every place you use it. But then it's going to go here. You're going to export. Export as MP3, and put the content on there. The tags on the MP3 do not matter. So I like to do them just because I like to do them, but they don't actually matter there. So this is basically what you do there. And then you're going to take this MP3 and you're going to go to Captivate, and we're going to upload it. So let's go over to Captivate. And I'm not going to actually do everything that we're doing. But it's going to give you a quick idea of where things would happen if you're doing it themselves, because it does take a bit of time to do these things. So I said I'd get your podcast launched and ready to go in 60 minutes. Now they're actually going to do the whole thing in 60 minutes. There's time going into this. That's why people like to hire someone else to do it for them. But so when you're in Captivate, you're going to hit here. You're going to hit browse files and upload the file here. You're going to put in the catchy episode title. This is searchable. I like to put the name of the person and some words that are relevant. So if they're a speaking coach, write speaking coach, because someone might search speaking skills, or how to be a better speaker or whatever. Episode show notes. These are for people to look at and get more information. Links go here. If you have affiliate links from your partner, they would go here. You have the episode number. This can be useful, but this does not actually create an order on most podcasts. It's mostly based on your mostly based on the upload order, which is important. So the trailer is a special episode, which will often go at the top of the feed. So you can have one trailer. You can also have bonus content that may display differently. You have the show. Remember, the show you marked as either explicit or not explicit. The episode. So if you have a show that's not explicit, but your episode is, you can put yes there. You can add a transcript to the episode. Here you can get that through Descript, which is fairly affordable. There is a guest booking system for Captivate. I don't use it because I use Calendly, but you can use this as well. Again, they've got exhaustive help and videos and all kinds of cool stuff. You can do your research in here. Episode artwork. So you may choose to have individual episode artwork for your episodes, or if you don't, it's just going to have whatever the usual cover art is. So if my interview shows, I have individual episodes that episode artwork where Kendra will take the headshots and put them in to make it a little bit more unique. It makes it more shareable for the guest because they feel special. This will default to something based on the name. Amy is the dynamic ads. So this is what you want the ads to be when you first set it up, and then publish time. This is when the episode is going to come out officially. So this is important, especially if you're uploading 5 episodes at once. If you're uploading 5 episodes at once, especially if they are in a particular order, you want to release them at 9 o'clock, 9:01, 9:02, 9:03, 9:04, 9:05, because that is what will tell the various podcast readers what order these episodes should be in. If you don't, it will do whatever order it feels like. And then once you have everything up there, you're going to hit publish. You can set Captivate up so that it links to your WordPress site and puts the content there. You can make it create its own page so that that's searchable and linkable, that has everything in it. And then it'll also give you, of course, links to Apple and Google and all those kinds of things. And then once you've done that, then you're going to want to share it out to social media and do all the good stuff. Do all the good stuff with that so that people know it's actually happening. So I've pretty much taught you everything that goes into making a podcast, putting it up, recording it. I'm not going to go into the technology so much. The microphone I use, I don't even know what this is. It's like 30 or 40 bucks. You want a cardioid microphone. So you do not want an omnidirectional microphone. That'll pick up noise for the entire room. You want a cardioid microphone. I got one of these little windscreen thing. Probably sounds funny when I pick it up, but I've got one of these windscreen things on it. Headphones can be good. I don't use them. I have speakers. Noise cancellation technology Zoom is pretty good. Again, up to you. The technology is not that advanced. Just don't use the built-in microphone for your computer. That will sound like garbage. Don't use the lapel mic either, because that picks up every time you touch it. So use some kind of desk mic. You want to get fancy, you need a boom mic, and you can get all kinds of stuff. But any kind of decent you don't need a $300 microphone. You want to get that at some point? Great. You don't need to. If you sound good on Zoom, so go on Zoom, record yourself, listen back. If it sounds good, that's what you're going to sound like on the podcast. So, get a decent microphone, but you don't need anything super fancy like that. So that's basically what it takes. It's going to take you 20 to 40 minutes to get an episode up if you know what you're doing, not counting the interview time. It's going to take you longer if you don't know what you're doing or you try to get picky and whatnot. And this is what kills podcasts. that it can take you so long to do it that you're like, oh man, I got to put. Before I was using Captivate, when I was actually putting things on my blog manually, so it'd have a website, it took 1 hour and 10 minutes per episode to get them up. And I stopped putting them out. It was so much work. I got Captivate. That got it down. I was able to eventually, after 50 episodes, got it down to about 20, 25 minutes. But still, that's time I could be doing something else. So I hired someone else to do it for me. And what we ended up realizing was that most of the programs out there that are doing podcast production for you are the BMW or the Lamborghini of podcast production, right? It's everything in the kitchen sink. If you want that, great. I got people I can introduce you who do marketing and the whole 9 yards. But if you just want a podcast because you want to have good conversations, share them out to your audience, maybe send them out through email, something like that, you don't need the Lamborghini. You don't need the BMW. You need the Honda Civic. And so I took what I'm paying my assistant to do, and I said, hey, Kendra, you want to team up and offer that to other people? And she said, yeah, let's do that. So if you are happy and you're like, no, Michael, I know how to do this. I got it. I'm ready to do it. You can hit stop right now because I've taught you everything I'm going to teach you. From here on, I'm going to offer you how you can have Kendra or our team do it for you so you don't have to. So don't worry, it's not going to be that long. But the teaching part is over. I believe in being very transparent. This is going to be the offer. This is going to be the place where you're going to get an opportunity to get a very affordable way to save a bunch of time. So we have 2 levels, basic and premium, I think is what we're calling them right now. So basic, that's the basic editing. That's what I showed you, putting things in, lining them up, balancing the levels, creating the episode cover. So that's putting in the cover art. So they're going to send you, you get a headshot from your guest and they're going to put in the guest name and their title and their headshot and whatever. Uploading to your hosting service, I recommend Captivate. Yeah, also, if you don't want to set up a Captivate account, you're like, I don't even want to touch it. You can pay me for me to host it for you. You will save money doing it yourself. But if you're just like, I can't even. You'll be my account. You'll still have admin access to it. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But that's just something we put out there. And then we'll either make a social media post for you or draft an email for you to put out. If you want us to actually have access into your email system, that's going to cost extra. But so social media post is if you can give Kendra access either into a group or give her posting access on your page. She can go in and post it for you, or an email she can write it, and then you just cut and paste into your system and out it goes. So that's basic, and that is $50 per episode. And then premium is all those things, plus she creates an automated transcript. Now, this is not a revised transcript. It's an automated transcript. It's the best that AI can do. So she is not going through and fixing every little thing in the proper nouns and all that. She can do that. That's going to cost more because that's very time intensive. But it's available if that's something you need. She'll create a social media promo image from the templates. That same template for the cover art. Cover art is square. Social media image is usually rectangular. So she will make a matching image, which is social media sized. And then she'll email the guest who was on the show to say, your show is out, and please do this, and here's the links, and share the images, and all the stuff they need to promote. She's going to send that out, and that's an additional $30 an episode, which makes $80 per episode. There's a $100 setup charge. So this is to get on the call with Kendra and get set up and get her set up in your Facebook group, and basically all the time it takes to get everything aligned. Also, her teaching you some stuff. If you've watched this video, you know most of what you need to know, but there may be a few more things you need to know. There's a $20 per month service charge, and then $50 or $80 per episode. So for example, if you did a monthly show in basic plan, $70 a month, 50 plus 20. A weekly show, $237. You might be like, Michael, how'd you add up some 50s and some 20s and get $237? There are 4.33 weeks in a month. So $237, we will produce 4 1/3 episodes per month. So we basically give you 4.3 episode credits, and So in other words, we're doing 13 episodes every 3 months to average that out. If you want to pay for 4 a month, and then if you fall behind or you skip one every once in a while or whatever, we can totally do that. This is, we invoice you for whatever is appropriate. Some shows are erratic. It's 4-ish episodes. Some months it's 1, some months it's 7, whatever. We can totally invoice you ahead of time. All the invoicing is ahead of time. You pay before the work is done, but that keeps our costs down. So costs down, so we don't have to do collections and whatnot. But if you're like, I want to pay for 2 episodes a month, and if I need extra, I'll pay for it, or I want to pay for 4 a month, and if I have extras, charge me less next month, whatever, we're pretty flexible on doing that kind of stuff. But this is basically, so if you do a weekly show, like My Guy Who Knows a Guy or Neurodiversity Superpowers, it would be $237 a month for the basic plan, and a little bit more, 3 something for the premium plan. So if you would like to talk about this and see about becoming a client, you can go to emc.coach/book call. For all those resources and links, it's emc.coach/podkit. My email address is in there. It's michael@guywhoknowsaguy.com. Also, if you're like, no, I get it, I'm in, let's do it, you can just email me, michael@guywhoknowsaguy.com. We can get you started right now. There's no reason you need to talk to me if you understand it, because Kendra does the work. So once you sign up, you'll get on a call with her. She'll make sure that you're all squared away. She knows what you need, you know what she needs. And this is customizable. If you're like, hey, could you also do this other thing? Could you also do that? We can certainly work around that to some degree. She's a virtual assistant. She's virtual/executive assistant. So she can do all kinds of things. This is just the productized thing that we realize a lot of people probably need the same thing. That's going to be very affordable. So again, if you want to talk to me, talk out the details, figure out what you need, emc.coach/book call. And for those resources, emc.coach/podkit. I think we're under 60 minutes, and you may have gone longer than 60 minutes if you paused and did a bunch of work. So there you go. I hope you found this valuable. If you want to work with Kendra and me and get your podcast up easier, because I was doing my own stuff and I just finally realized, what the heck am I doing? My time is worth more than $50 an hour. You know, as a coach, I charge $200 to $500 an hour for the services. So why the heck would I sit here and do $50 an hour work when I can hire someone to do it? So if you're spending your time doing your own podcasting stuff or anything else, I highly recommend you outsource, whether it is to us or to someone else. Your time, unless you are a podcast production person and podcast production is your job, in which case it's weird that you walked through this whole course. Unless podcast production is your job, you're better at something else. You're a great coach, you're a great trainer, you're a great teacher, you're a great artist, whatever it is. So, put your time where it is most valuable. And this applies to other things too. This is just throwing a little bit extra coaching in here. Hire a house cleaner. Hire someone to mow your lawn. I mean, I use mowing my lawn as exercise, so there's a secondary benefit. But if it's just like, oh, I hate mowing my lawn, hire someone to mow your lawn. What's it going to cost? 20, 30, $50 to have some neighborhood kid do it? Or whatever it is. Hire someone to do it, because your time, if you're an entrepreneur, is worth more than that. And the more things you can outsource, the more you can get control of your time and work in your genius things you're really meant to do. So thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your feedback on this, whether your feedback is, yeah, I want to use Kendra's services, or no, I love doing this myself, or this was a waste of 60 minutes, give my hour back. Hopefully it's not that, but if it is, I want to hear it. I want that feedback. I'm Michael Whitehouse, the guy who knows a guy. Michael@guywhoknowsaguy.com is that email address. Thank you for watching.